Welcome to Trust the Journey. I'm Melanie Curtis.
And I'm Jason Moletsky.
Thank you, legit, for joining us today.
Yeah, our mission is living and learning, laughing and loving together with you.
We're here to grow and contribute through our practice of openness, honesty, vulnerability, humility, and trust, trusting the entire journey.
Yeah, and on that journey, we often talk about plant medicines, psychedelics, and other avenues of healing. When we do, we are sharing for informational purposes only. We're not doctors or therapists, and we don't promote doing anything illegal.
Inside us all, we have a deep, powerful knowing. We encourage curiosity, healing, and exploration of this consciousness.
Damn straight. Together, our handle is trustthejourney.today. Individually, you can find her at melaniecurtis.com and me at jasonmoletsky.com.
Thank you all again so much for being with us. On to the show. Team, family, we are absolutely thrilled to welcome today Shannon and Travis Morehead. Shannon and Travis are the founders and lead facilitators of Great Spirit Farm, a healing and retreat center founded in 2016 in Brooksville, Florida. They mentor in the Shipibo and, I'm going to struggle with this pronunciation, União do Vegetal, UDV traditions of ayahuasca, including understanding the plant dietas, icaros, chamadas, and cooking the traditional sacred brew. Their integration coaching weaves together the modalities of internal family systems, Dreamwork, Jungian Psychology, Somatic Experiencing, and 52 years combined experience with psychedelics. Travis and Shannon create safe spaces for those interested in exploring their inner world for the benefit of expanded consciousness and the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Shannon was also the very first ever guest on Trust the Journey podcast. She also is now the first ever repeat guest, which is awesome. And Travis, we are thrilled to have you joining us too. We love you both so, so much. Welcome.
Welcome to the show.
A great introduction.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, it's just so happy to have you here. And, we definitely want to, and we've talked about this, we want to use part of this episode for sure to share about the Ayahuasca Microdose Tincture. We want to help people learn a lot about that. But before we go there, let's get to know you both a little bit more, right? Shannon's solo episode, for those of you who haven't listened to it, is episode 99. So you can go back to hear that. There's a lot more about Shannon's story there. But since we're getting to know you guys, we want to let our audience get to know you more. And Travis, we want to start with you because we haven't heard anything from you yet on the show. And so how did you find your way to working with plant medicines? Perhaps this includes how you found your way to Shannon. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we're so happy you're both here.
Yeah. So I was very, I loved psychedelics as a high school kid. In high school, I did a lot of psychedelics, a lot of LSD, and always really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. My best friend in school also did it with me, and we became so close. We had these just amazing experiences of connection without any language. It just seemed like we didn't even have to talk, and we knew exactly what each other were thinking. And it was so connecting and bonding. And then there was a period of years we get out of high school, never didn't touch LSD, went into the Air Force, totally kind of straight-laced in a lot of ways. And when I got out of the military, I started selling insurance, which is something that's, not something you guys would think that we would come from, but that's actually how I met Shannon, was actually selling insurance, was selling Aflac insurance. And one of our first dates or meetings or things outside of it, I say it's a date. She held my hand. But our first date, I'm calling it a date. She actually offered a little bit of LSD. She got some LSD, and she's like, "Hey, I got a little bit of LSD. You want to take this?" And I was like, "Really?" And it's been since high school since I'd had it, and so there was this huge connection of just like, "Oh my God, she's magical. She's amazing," and just it was a deep connection night. We had a great experience, held hands, had an amazing experience on the floor of her room, and yeah, it was just beautiful and amazing. So that's kind of sort of how we met, and got to start seeing each other and dating was a lot through actual psychedelics. And fast forward a few years,
Yeah.
we heard about ayahuasca, knew what ayahuasca was, and wanted to have this experience, and didn't know how to have this experience, didn't know where to go, didn't know how can we do this, kept looking, searching online. And one day I find the plants are legal online. Oh my gosh, I can buy the ayahuasca vine and I can buy the chacruda plant and I can just do this myself. Having no idea anything else, just thinking, oh, I'm just going to throw these things together and we're going to have an experience. And then, yeah. And
Nice.
something in me told me not to pull the trigger. Shannon's like, yeah, go for it. Order it. And I was like, you know what? Let me just wait. And then, it was literally the next day, Shannon's friend reaches out and says, hey, next weekend, I'm going to be going to an ayahuasca ceremony in Florida. Do you want to come? I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Yes, of course we want to come. And that's really the start of our journey with ayahuasca.
Wow. It's so funny
Awesome.
that like knowing that you were like, oh, don't, it's almost like there's an awareness of, I really don't know what I'm doing. And then like there's some, even though it's not even a verbal communication, it's that knowing of like, well, just wait, like there might be something else coming soon to direct me toward this in the way that maybe is better suited for this particular medicine and whatever. But I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to know something. Shannon, did you consider it a date because you held hands?
No, it was one of those like very psychedelic unifying bonding experiences. Like, oh, we're riding in the car. Why don't we just hold hands? Like, this is one of my dear friends. It was just a very affectionate moment for me. So that's why we kind of still argue that it was not a date.
Awesome.
I gotta say,
I mean, holding hands is awesome and intimate.
But though if it weren't for acid, the door probably would not have been opened in that way. And there might have been a whole different future for us.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. You guys, obviously, you created and founded Great Spirit Farm, the Healing and Retreat Center. By the way, hashtag I'm on the board, hashtag board members. Gonna totally own that.
Thank God for the board of directors.
Love it.
Literally, I figured
it. Hashtag BOD. But it's obviously there's like the inception story of how you guys sort of found each other and started to explore your path together. But let's jump forward into the retreat center. You guys work very closely together at the retreat center, hosting, circles and doing the things that you do. Tell us what that's like. I mean, how did you decide to work together like that? Do you like, how do you make that work? And like, tell us more about your actual, real time experiences now being in such a partnership and deploying the healing opportunities that you deploy for so many people.
Yeah, I'd actually like to start with, so Shannon's third ceremony she ever had with ayahuasca, she saw a vision of me all in white and facilitating the ceremony. And I was like, oh, hell no, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. I remember our first experience just being like, oh my gosh, that was so hard. I can't imagine like trying to facilitate this stuff, much less trying to drink it on a regular basis. Like, nope, not for me, not going to happen. But it was just like after my first ceremony, I really got connected to something bigger than myself. I'd done a lot of psychedelics, but I'd never had what I'd call a spiritual experience. And my first experience was absolutely a spiritual experience. I came out of that experience. It was uncomfortable. I wouldn't even say I got a lot out of it, but the experience itself was greater than anything that I could have imagined. And I was asked immediately after I came out, just the guy's facilitator, it's like, so would you do it again? I was like, yeah, I need to do this again. I need to come back and do this again. Shannon's like, no, I'm on the couch. I would never do this again. I'm out. I'm not doing it. So it's funny to see where we are now in our journey, knowing where we started with this, like, oh my gosh, this stuff's hard. Why would we want to do this? Or who would sign up for this? And yeah, but like fast forward, years of working with the medicine, growing, transformation, left and right, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with each other, relationship with our family, our friends, like everything just began to transform and just worked easier and better the more we worked with the medicine. And I had this profound moment, which seems so simple when you hear about it, but I share this story often where there was a guy who was a twin brother. He was in a ceremony. We come out of the ceremony. We start sharing around the circle what we got out of the experience. And he shared that culturally, his dad has never told him he loved him. And so he's never told his brother he's loved him. And he just can't wait to get home and just tell them both he loves them so much and give them big old hugs. And it was like, he has tears right now in his face talking about how he just can't wait to tell them he loves them. And something about that made a shift inside of my consciousness where it was like, you know what? Like, what else would I be willing to sacrifice my life for than this medicine and serving this and having people have these experiences? And so it was the first moment that I was like, wow, like I think I can step into this. Like this is a worthy cause of my life to do. And so we started looking for property, thinking, maybe 20 years from now we'll be facilitating ayahuasca, but we're gonna start with like looking for property. And looked and we found this magical place. You want to talk about that story?
Yeah, so the property actually came to me in a vision, which was completely related to something else, but it was the backdrop of this other ceremony. And ayahuasca kept telling me, you'll know the property when you see it. And I was just didn't really understand what she meant. But then when I saw it, I realized, I've seen this in ceremony. So I knew this was the place. And when we started, we definitely had a lot of bumps in the road. We had a lot of learning opportunities, learning to love our neighbor as ourselves, learning to have trust and faith that the mortgage payment was going to be there because we weren't facilitating ceremonies. And we weren't really able to do anything with the property. We just took on this huge mortgage and no way to create any income from it. And it was really beautiful, like windfall after windfall, like just unexpected money coming at us at the very last minute. So it's just this process of understanding that if we're really meant to be where we are, that everything will be taken care of. And it was, as long as we were doing the inner work and doing what we knew we needed to be doing, and not coming from our ego, but coming from our heart as much as we can. We're human, So we got this property and had some challenges with the neighborhoods and the local ordinances, and then eventually we prevailed through that with flying colors, and now we're really like living the dream, helping people, getting to the honor and the privilege of witnessing some of their most vulnerable, intimate moments, understanding the deep suffering that they carry with them, or the challenges that they carry that we mask from the rest of the world, and having the honor of walking them through that process and through another lens of possibility, of opportunity, with the benefit of ayahuasca, to understand their blind spots, to remove these blockages that they were previously unaware of, and opening up a whole new world. And so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of inner work. It's a lot of constantly staying clean ourselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, continuing to clean our own house internally, so that when we step into that space, it is a clear, sacred container with our garbage left at the door. And so it's a lot of work. It is a lot of sacrifice, and I can think of nothing else that I would want to dedicate my life for. So it's a really beautiful endeavor.
Thank you so much, Shannon and Travis. What you were saying, Travis, about how it's hard and it's work, and it really reminds me of the whole modality of like going to the gym kind of idea. You're like, this hurts. This isn't fun. This isn't really something I see myself enjoying in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know what I'm doing here, and I feel like kind of a scary space because there's all these powerful entities around, and I don't feel that within myself. And it's this matter of just showing up and just say, okay, well, we're just going to do it anyways. And eventually that muscle of the spiritual body starts to become developed. It starts to become worked and practiced and tuned. And we start to be able to relate to that muscle having a strength and being something we can actually flex and see the strength building over time. And I'd like to compliment the two of you, because as a witness to both of your journey, I see that spiritual muscle developed from where it was just starting to get its nudges. You can see the little baby bump on the muscle, and you guys were just leaning in and going, we're doing it. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're doing it. And now I see this, very evolved, beautiful couple who have put this so much of your energy and trust, so much trust into the universe itself to say exactly where you were saying, Shannon, with this idea of the universe will provide if we show up to our own fears, if we show up to our own calling, our passion, the thing that says this is service. This is us in service to the universe itself and to other humans and to other people on this journey and to ourselves, to be in service to ourselves, to actually grow and evolve, that the universe will provide the ends to the means to the ends, so that we can continue. And I'm so proud of both of you.
I am
I just
so
had to say that.
proud
Thank
of
you
you
so
as
much.
well. I echo every word.
Thank you. I feel like what you just spoke to,
I'd like to
Jay, is
hear a
kind
little
of
bit
like, I feel like what you just spoke to is kind of like the law of
Go ahead.
gravity. And that when we do show up for our purpose, when we find what that authentic purpose is, and we cast our fears to the wind, and we really trusting the journey every step of the way, that invariably the universe provides without fail. There's no way we can fail when we are in service of our purpose.
I personally love the notion of comparing following our intuition and our callings and those messages that we get. I love the comparison of that to gravity, because gravity is not something that people are like, yeah, well, I don't know. People believe in it, right? So I love the idea of sort of connecting the two, because I like the idea of more people feeling that convicted and confident about their intuitive hits. You know what I mean? So that is fantastic. I mean, obviously you guys have had a calling toward the medicine, toward all the work that you've done and the facilitation and all of this stuff. And I do want to go and hear about the ayahuasca microdose tincture. I'm not like necessarily trying to be like, oh, let's pimp your wares and all that stuff. But this is a significant development in what you guys are offering, because of what the possibilities that it creates to help people with anxiety and depression and all that stuff. So I want to hear more about, how did you think to even put this tincture together? Like what's the story behind the ayahuasca tincture? What does it do? And tell us more about that, so people can really learn about it, because we're going to be sharing a lot about it, and I want to make sure people have the information straight from you guys.
And I have a couple of questions there specifically. I want to understand, is it the ayahuasca vine? Is it the chacruna vine? Does it contain the DMT, or does it contain the MAOI? What's it all about?
Yeah. So why don't we start with the story of how we discovered it was we were brewing ayahuasca, and ayahuasca does contain two different components. So it has the ayahuasca vine and it has a chacruna plant. So the two plants are mixed together. The ayahuasca vine is a MAOI, which gives you access to the DMT, and the chacruna allows your body to access the DMT, basically. Otherwise, your body rapidly breaks it down and you don't have any experience. The DMT allows you to the AOI and the vine allows you to have access to that DMT experience orally. And we had extra vine one day. We're brewing medicine. We brew medicine here at the farm, and we were brewing ayahuasca, and we had more vine than we had chacruna. So we're like, well, we need to do something with this. So it would be like just a waste to allow the vine to go wasted. So we decided to brew it, just the vine by itself. And we thought, maybe later on we'll mix chacruna with it later on and make the full brew. But while we were making it, we made it, boiled it down, did the same process we normally do when we make the full brew of ayahuasca. And Shannon had this great idea. Well, why don't we take a mug of this and why don't we have a sip of it and drink it and see what happens? Okay, sure, yeah, why not? Let's do that. We usually drink the medicine when we brew it, so it just was a natural kind of progress of like, okay, well let's try it. Let's drink a little bit, and it was just amazing. We just felt great. We were laughing, we were giggly. There was clearly an effect. There was clearly something that was happening there, and it didn't have the DMT. It was like, there's something here. And then we started to bottle it. We started to give it to participants when they'd come for our 3-day or our 7-day, 5 days, or extended retreats. We would give out a bottle to each person that came. That way they could stay connected with that medicine and have ayahuasca with them. kind of help with integration and just kind of that kind of thing. And we put it on our website, but our website was always designed to let people know about us and who we are, that we're looking to come sit with us at a retreat. We don't advertise, we don't promote our retreats. Our ayahuasca tincture never was marketed before or anything. We just put it on the website randomly. People would occasionally buy it. It wasn't that big of a deal. And that's sort of how it began. And then we had this amazing opportunity where Melanie, you kind of pushed a little button to be like, why don't you come to the Psychedelic Science Conference? And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to be public. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I was very resistant. Shannon was like, no, let's do it. Let's do it. We're doing it. And when we looked at the cost of the tickets, it was almost the same cost to have a booth as it was to go and just be a participant. So we're like, all right, well, at least maybe we can cover our costs. Let's do it. We'll just throw our tincture on the table. We'll give away free samples and just kind of see what happens. And the responses were overwhelmingly positive. We had no idea what we had until that moment, that weekend or that week. We had people
Meaning
in shrooms
what,
that were coming
Travis?
in for, yeah. So we had
like what were people saying? Like what was the feedback that you got from people that you shared samples with, and what was that sample? How much was it? Like, give us really some detailed information. I'm all about this.
Sure, yeah. So what we recommend is people start off with 3 dropperfuls. And so 3 dropperfuls is what we were giving away as a sample. It's a good middle dose. Some people find they need a little more. Some people find that they need a little less and don't need that much. It's really selective over the person. So we were giving away 3, which seems to be like kind of the middle of the road where most people will have some level of an experience or not really a big experience, but just feel good, feel really great, lower anxiety. And probably my favorite story of that conference of that week was a lady coming to us on the first day. She took a sample, bought a bottle. 3 days later, she came back to us and she said, I've been on Xanax for 10 years and I haven't needed my Xanax over the last 3 days since taking your tincture. And she's at a conference with over 12,000 people. So it was just amazing. And then that's not it. I mean, it was just person after person would have the sample, an hour come by, maybe 15 minutes, where some people would be like, oh my gosh, I feel it. I want it. I need to get this. We had some people taking some other kind of supplement and it made them drowsy. They come to the tincture, they felt great and alive and felt energized again. And so as they were adding it, there was people that, it was all different walks of life. Some people were taking it and like realizing that, well, this is an AOI. If I take this with psilocybin, will this make my experience stronger? Yeah, technically, yeah, it will. So there's so many different little aspects of the tincture and different, we even discovered new ways people would take it or new conditions that it could help.
One of the things I would point out about the ayahuasca microdose is I've been thinking about what you were saying, like the imperceptible microdose versus the perceptible macrodose. And what we found with the tincture is there is a perceptible level, but because it's not psychedelic, you don't have to worry about taking too much. So the perceptible feeling, and Mel, you have some experience you might want to speak to it, is the perceptible feeling that someone's looking for is that almost like a relaxing sigh. But that's awake. There's creativity, there's focus, there's energy without feeling speedy or amped. But it feels like the whole body just softens and you're just like, oh, okay. And you come into the present moment with this very relaxed, calm feeling. So there is a perception to it. It's not, ideally, it's not something where, those things you take for 30 days and, really only notice that it was helping you because you quit taking it. And you're like, oh, that actually was helping. This is a little bit more perceptible than that, if that makes any sense.
So would you liken it to say it's more perceivable than St. John's wort, which personally I never noticed. Like if I've taken St. John's wort, I don't perceive that I've ingested anything until some days have gone by and I'm like, oh, I'm in a better mood than I was 3 or 4 days ago, versus say if I take a psilocybin microdose, within a few hours, I find that I'm like, oh, I'm dancing and singing to a song in the kitchen where earlier I was kind of flumpy on the couch, but I don't have any visuals. I don't notice like I'm not tripping in any way. I'm just in a much better mood.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in between those two. Some people definitely came back at the Psychedelic Science Conference the next day, like, I just felt great yesterday. It's kind of like it's somewhere around that, but it's definitely something that you're probably not going to take. If you find your right dose, you're not going to take 10 days to figure out what that you're taking it.
just a couple other things to compare the
Right.
two.
Yeah, and Shannon, you go ahead, Travis.
Yeah. So they're very similar, but they're also a little different. So psilocybin, you can't take it every day. So you start building a tolerance to it rapidly, where it starts no longer having the effect without increasing or doubling that dose each day. With the microdose, we haven't found that to be the case. So with ayahuasca itself, you can actually do ceremonies multiple days in a row, and you actually need less medicine each day versus actually needing more like you would with other psychedelics. And so that's one real good benefit I see of it, is it makes it easier to get into a regular routine with it, because you don't have to worry about like, okay, it's been 3 days, but 4 days, like what day am I on? When am I supposed to take it again? It makes it really easy to bring it into your daily routine, your daily habits, to make sure you don't miss it. Another thing is because it's, it's illegal. It's legal, so it doesn't have that. What's that? You have a question?
Yeah, so just, it's legal. So I'm going to immediately, when you say it's legal, I'm going to put it into another category, which is, I'm going to liken it to kava, and I'm going to ask you to compare it to kava in that sense, because that's another, natural spice plant that is in the market in the U.S. nowadays. And, I might go to a kava bar, I might have a kava drink till I can kind of find that balance in myself. And so can you give me some reference there if I'm maybe somebody who would look at it from that perspective?
It's a little challenging actually for me, because I've only had kava once or twice, and it's actually been a few years. I don't remember liking the feeling of kava, and so I haven't really had any sense, but I don't know if that's a normal experience for most people. I know kratom, I definitely don't like the feeling of that. I know some people have kratom in different environments like that as well, but I don't really have enough experience to really compare the two. You, Shannon?
Yeah, I have a little bit of experience with kava. I would say the feeling is kind of similar. Kava can make you feel very relaxed and calm. I think there's a little bit more focus with the ayahuasca microdose than with kava. More that like really connected to our intuition and our inner energy, more heart opening. But very similar, in the body, I think, to kava, but definitely in the same boat as far as legality and accessibility, and that you can, make a kava tea whenever you want to.
The sponsor of today's episode is Great Spirit Farm. Yes. Love having Great Spirit Farm with us, and specifically their Ayahuasca Microdose Tincture. It is a natural MAOI antidepressant and anti-anxiety. Great Spirit Farm describes the feeling as a warm hug. It can help you access deep creativity, flow, intuition, and improve vivid dream recall, which actually has totally been my experience.
So what is exactly in the bottle is the ayahuasca vine itself. So this is a tincture extraction, double extraction tincture that contains the Banisteriopsis caapi vine. Now, the particular vine that this has been extracted from has been growing in Florida now for over 25 years. And the ayahuasca vine does not contain DMT, so that makes this tincture 100% legal in all 50 states.
Yeah, Great Spirit Farm recommends starting with 1 to 3 dropperfuls and increasing your dose gradually from there until you feel the effects. There are no known contradictions with antidepressants, and always check with your doctor and only take as directed.
And what's really great about what Great Spirit Farm is doing is they're making sure that 10% of all the sales are returned to the Shipibo tribe, honoring the medicine's indigenous roots with active reciprocity. Now, if you want to try this tincture out for yourself, you can go to the website that is ayadose.com, AYADOSE.com, and you can enter our discount code TTJ10 to get 10% off your order. Again, that's ayadose.com and all caps TTJ10 to get 10% off your order.
Yeah, and Shannon, you mentioned about speaking to my own experience, because, that's at least one anecdotal piece of evidence we can share here on the show. I like personally very much that it is legal, and that the assertion that you cannot take too much and you can take it every day, those things support me in the sense that, like, I there's still a part of me that's like, has a little bit of apprehension when I take some kind of substance of any kind, or I think about my loved ones taking substances, right? So there's that piece of healing around just what we consume and what that might do, and just like that unknown piece. So to know that I can't take too much, to know that I don't have to worry about that is a really useful thing for someone like me that has that sort of persistent fear around consumption of any substance. In my experience, I started and I did what you guys suggested. I started the 1 dropper full, 1 to 3, and I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. I had to get up to probably about 6 to 7 dropperfuls before I was like, oh, okay, there's that warm hug that they're talking about. Oh, okay, yeah, I feel that focus and the creativity and the just sort of, I don't know what the word is. It's almost like evenness, because it wasn't even like a super up feeling, right? But it was this like groundedness that I felt, which allowed for that focus and creativity. It sort of let the like anxieties, you know what I mean, sort of fall away, but in such a almost imperceptible way, but definitely perceptible, to Jay's point, looking back, being like, oh yeah, I felt different when you know what I mean? So I'm in the middle of doing like a whole 30-day protocol for myself to see how I do 30 days, having it, to your point, Travis, as a daily piece of my daily routine, and see how that impacts my life experience. So I'm a thumbs up for now.
I want to add something quickly in here, just because it's really important to mention this. Is the difference between medicine and poison is dose. So
yes,
for legality and for just being kind to our audience and recognizing that the statement that you can't take too much, well, you could take too much water and it will kill you.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
You
Fair.
can take too much. So please follow the directions on the bottle and don't drink the whole bottle. So a little bit of, a warning there. But I love the idea of exploring, making a subtle change to our making changes to our subtle body, right? Thinking about how our baseline energies are feeling, the ones that are at the sub-perceptual level. We're typically not thinking or feeling into our subtle body. As we're moving through our day, as we're interacting with people on the phone or message or a loved one or in work or whatever, we're more in the physical body, in the somatic body. We're like present in where we're at and interaction, and the subtle body is just doing its thing in the background, right? And I love the idea of bringing in a little touch from the universe through that branch of connectivity, literally the vine reaching in and touching us on the shoulder and being like, hey, I'm present with you here. I'm here as part of your daily journey. I'm here as part of the connectivity to all that is, this connectivity to the earth, the connectivity to the jungle, the connectivity to the medicine. And I love that. And I've seen the changes in my own life of just my daily journey, how it is from sunrise to sunset each day, of feeling more at peace with myself when I find the right balance of molecules to put into my body to connect to it. And for me, omegas is a huge one. I need my daily omega-3s in order to keep everything balanced. And I don't need psilocybin all the time. Once in a while, when I'm a little low, to like Travis, it's just I'll like take occasionally here and there. But my omegas are daily. And if I'm looking for something else like this, where I might say, oh yeah, I can take that every day for the next 6 weeks and see how I feel after that 6 weeks period, and decide whether I want to keep taking it or decide whether I want to step back and see how I feel without it. This is the journey. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I would like to say a little something about the dose, because I think that is absolutely paramount. And yes, everything is dose dependent. True. Like, there's a study done in Spain where they wanted to test ayahuasca to see if it was safe. And they're talking about the full brew with the chacruna in it. And they compared it to water. Yeah, you could drink 6 liters of water and it would be too much for you. You could die. but you could drink 6 liters of ayahuasca and then you'd be fine. So with the tincture, you could drink the whole bottle, but yes, follow directions on the bottle. Don't take the whole bottle. I know that people are going to anyway, so I've tested it and I can tell you what's going to happen. You're going to want to sit on the couch or sit someplace really nice in nature, kind of treat it like a mini ceremony. It's going to last 3 to 5 hours, and have your journal. You might have to go to the bathroom. It might loosen your bowels. But have a journal, because the insights, the downloads, the intuition, the aha revelations are going to start flowing like water. But it's not something that you'd want to drink the whole bottle and go skydiving or drive a car. You're not going to have a psychedelic experience, but you are going to feel a little bit like, ooh, kind of maybe a little woozy. But starting with the 3 dropperfuls, if you follow the directions, start with 3 dropperfuls, see how you feel, and then increase or decrease from there, much like you did, Mel. Absolutely safe to drive a car, go skydiving, all of that. And it's not going to show up on a drug test as something that people need to be concerned about, because it just has that antidepressant effect. There's no DMT in it.
Right.
I know if I drink a whole bottle of anything, I get woozy.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And yeah, you guys, if there's anything that we missed, definitely let us know. The 2 things that I want to touch on before we move forward from the tincture and is the sustainability of it, that you grow the vine yourselves, and the reciprocity with indigenous peoples and how that goes relative to your production of the tincture and how you deploy the funds that you receive from it.
Would you share that? I'll share the land part.
Okay. So some of your readers or listeners might know that the boon of ayahuasca has had an impact on how much ayahuasca is available. And a lot of centers and facilities will buy their ayahuasca from South America, from, a market where you don't really know, or somebody you don't really know what goes into it. That's a whole other story. But the vine, they're having to go deeper and deeper into the forest to find harvestable vine. And so there's only a limited supply of ayahuasca in South America. Responsible ceremonialists and shamans are replanting more and more to help with that. But we need to be cognizant of how and where we get this vine from. So the vine that we found, or that found us, I should say, has just been part of our beautiful serendipitous process of our journey, is my daughter, when she was in middle school, went to Montessori school, and one of the assistants that was a parent there told me that she has this 25-year-old vine growing in her yard. And she said, it's invasive, it's overtaking my yard. I would love if you would come and cut it back. And so we go several times a year and we harvest from her property. We clean up her yard for her. And in the process, we bring back, hundreds of pounds of ayahuasca vine. It's a mutual win-win. And then we make the tincture from that. So we're harvesting from a local vine that's grown here in Florida. It's not incurring all the carbon footprint of being shipped from South America. And it's local. We make it with love and prayer and sing songs into this vine, just as we would any medicine that we would serve, because that energy is going to pick up the energy around it. And that's what you're going to then ingest. Same thing with the food we eat. Whole other story. We could go on a big topic with that. And then we also have a maestra, as we mentioned earlier, that we mentor under the Shipibo and the UDV traditions. And so our maestra, Lila Sanchez, is with Niue Rao in South America and Peru. And we send 10% of our profits from our ceremonies and from the tincture sales to her as reciprocity, because we honor the indigenous elders who have stewarded this plant, who have brought this plant to us and shared this wisdom with us and with the rest of the world. And there is an impact. There's colonialization. There's an impact of this wisdom basically moving out of their wisdom keepers' hands and into the regular world. And I think there's a right way to do that. And I think that there's a not so good way to do that. And a lot of people are only doing it for capitalization. And we want to make sure that the profits are supporting and sustaining these cultures who have been affected by colonization. and their lives and their tribes have ultimately shifted because of white culture, essentially. So we want to make sure we're giving back and caring for her and caring for their people as best we can. And that's the tribe that we're closest with. And so that's where we donate to.
And then as far as the sustainability, so I see in the next 10 years, I think ayahuasca is going to be legal in the United States. I think that a lot of psychedelics are starting to move in that direction. Different states are passing different things, different counties. And I think that this is something that's ultimately going to happen. And the challenge is going to be, where are we going to get all this ayahuasca from? There's just not going to be enough to support the demand for it in the United States when this happens. And so one of the things we're closely working on right now, and most of the proceeds of the tincture sales is actually going to go to the Sustainable Ayahuasca Fund to be able to grow the vine sustainably in the United States. We have several different sites and locations kind of plotted out on our map, and we're looking to plant about 200 acres to start with ayahuasca vine. It's going to take a little bit to get there, but that's where the proceeds are going. So our farm, our retreat center,
Amazing.
We actually have an income source from insurance sales and a residual income that comes in. And so there's actually no paid staff that works with Great Spirit Farm. We don't take any income from the tincture sales. We're not taking any income from our retreats. This money just goes back into the retreat center and allows it to continue to grow. And we continue, as we expand this tincture and allow it to reach more people, we're planning to put that income and that proceeds into the land to make that sustainable ayahuasca farm. Really excited about that.
Amazing.
I'm immediately curious. As somebody who has lived in Florida a large part of my life, I'm like, oh man, I want to put a plant on my property. I want to grow a vine. Is that something I can do? Is that something people can reach out to you about if they're curious? If they're like, am I in one of these regions? Can I be one of the people who helps to foster this?
Sure, yeah, you can reach out, but the short answer is anywhere below the frost line. As long as it doesn't freeze, the vine will grow. We're in Brooksville, so we're right at this border where it does get some freezes occasionally, and all of our plants are surviving, but they tend to slow down in the winter. Where the vines that are just an hour south of us, they grow all year round. They grow through the winter. They don't really get stumped at all. I have some friends, Brandon, just an hour south of us, that have tons of flowers all over their vine right now. So yeah, South Florida is definitely the best place to grow it.
Does it also grow in the western part of the U.S. if you were to be like along the Mexican border?
I think it's possible, but I'm afraid that it would be too dry.
Yeah, it's a rainforest plant, so it's going to want a very humid climate.
So Texas eastward, Texas eastward along that, it's going to be right on the border until you get into like middle Florida, southern Florida, then you're into the tropic.
I think like Tampa and below, it's going to be like whatever that latitude is probably the best.
Yeah. Just anecdotal data, there's like 11 different tropical zones within the length of Florida. It's amazing how much it changes from the north part of Florida to the south part of Florida. It's completely different vegetation. Yeah.
100%.
I feel like this is the perfect segue. Unless you guys have more to share, I feel like it's a perfect segue to what are you working toward? Tell us more. Obviously, you've told us a little bit of what you're working toward, like what you're creating in your future. I mean, I know from my experience, and if anybody listens to the show, it's like, how much work I've done personally in my own healing journey at Great Spirit Farm, which I'm just absolutely undeniably grateful to the ends of my existence in this whole whatever this is that we're experiencing.
Whatever the fuck is going on here.
Don't know how to even put it into words. It's kind of a big deal. And I've got to, and this is, I really want to touch back on this, is that like, I was one of the very first people that ever sat with you, Shannon, right? Like that ever came to the farm for ceremony, because we're like, I'm going to start with friends and family. Right. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I need this. I'm terrified. Nancy Reagan, all the story, you've heard it. And I'm so phenomenally grateful. But why I bring that up is that I've gotten to bear witness to the growth of you guys and the farm and how you hold space, the containers that you create, the land and how you've cultivated it, the space and how you've improved it, the all of the things that you have done over the last number of years, and I don't even know how many years it's been now. My brain doesn't even have that piece of data. But like all that you've done over the years to grow the yourselves, but also the farm and the way that you hold people and help people is really profound. And so tell us more, maybe give us a little bit of insight into that, where you've come and then where you're going.
Such a big story. So it's been about 7 years. We've been serving here about 7 years now. And it's amazing because we've worked with a lot of volunteers over the years. So we worked with the Woofing program, World Organization of Organic Farms. I don't think that's quite right, but basically it allows people to come work on our farm in exchange for food and lodging. And a lot of these people seek us out because they also are interested in ceremony, so they get the exchange of ceremony as well. And we did that for years, and that was how we helped support the place because we don't have any paid staff. We needed help. This last year, we actually got rid of the Woofing program and started opening up a very large volunteer program with people that are coming to ceremony with us. And so anybody who's done the ceremony with us can come and volunteer, and they can earn hours towards their next ceremony. So it really allows anyone to participate in ceremony. Now, our ceremonies are small. They're intimate. They're beautiful because they're small and intimate. Everybody who comes here has been referred by somebody who's been here before. And this has been a beautiful thing. People come with this instant recognition of who we are. They feel trust. They feel safe. They come here with this pure safety feeling because they're not coming to some strangers. They feel like they already know us when they arrive. We send out an introduction video before they come, so they actually have a video of us actually going through the process of what their experience is going to be like, what the property's like, where they're going to be staying. A lot of that's done ahead of time, and so they see our faces before they arrive, and so they feel like they already know us. They come here, they're ready to give hugs, and that's been beautiful. And we really want to keep it that way. So we don't want to start advertising our retreats. We want to keep it word of mouth. This podcast isn't to attract a bunch of people to our retreats. We want to keep them small, intimate, referral-based. But the ability to offer our tincture at a large scale like we are is going to give us the ability to pour money into this place. Make this a world-class retreat center that's somewhere that we can be really proud of. You'll walk in and they ride in. They already feel the good vibes, but we want to take that to the next level. Have flowers, beautiful colors, and just the aliveness on the property. We want to continue to amp that up as time goes on. We also want to create a maloka, which is like a traditional ceremony house for ayahuasca. We plan on creating one of those. We plan on putting on more cabins. Right now we have 4 cabins on the property. We have an A-frame, which is kind of open to the environment, but really beautiful. Then we have several tent decks, which have glamping type tents on the tent decks. And so they work for now. They definitely work, but we would like to turn these tent decks into actual cabins. We'll have a full enclosed experience and have air conditioning in the summer if they want, that kind of thing, have some electricity as well. And so what I see is us continuing to develop this property to be this beautiful world-class center while also developing these sustainable products or projects to increase the sustainability of ayahuasca and eventually create an actual brewing house. I could see us actually providing ayahuasca, and actually we have the experience to brew it and actually assisting the country in getting ayahuasca into the hands. We have these small groups, and what I see is, I think as time develops, we'll have an ayahuasca church in every city in the country. I think that would be beautiful and amazing. I don't want to take everybody here. Nobody should be traveling from New York to come to Florida necessary every time they want to do a ceremony.
The legend name is Melanie Curtis.
I think that you should have everyone should have access to this medicine, and it should be available everywhere. And we want to help make that happen. We keep ourselves in check. We're constantly looking at ourselves. Okay, where can we make sure that money doesn't tempt us in any way? Because this is something that I see in this space sometimes. As people get involved in this, or they're even attracted to serve medicine because they see a dollar sign. But as soon as money's in there, the purity's gone. The ability to serve people sort of wanes or isn't as pure as it can be. And we want to continue that pureness and help other people and be a conduit for others following our lead and creating a very sustainable, beautiful experience for everyone. That's what I see. What do you see?
Yeah, I'm obviously on board with that. I also see us continuing to develop ourselves. And what I've kind of come to the realization this past few months is that the last 7 years have been like, our logo is the tree of life. as you can see from Travis's shirt, if you're watching this on video. And, so you have the tree, you have the roots. And so the last 7 years, we've pretty much been putting down roots. And the center above ground, yes, it has changed. There have been some transformations, some morphing, but I feel like it's really been the time to put our roots down. And the more we put our roots down, the more we work on the inside, the more we work on ourselves, the more the outside changes and transforms. So while I believe that this is going to be this from this point forward is the future of where our upper leaves and branches start to develop, and we have the flowers on the vine and the things that you can really see in the external world show up. It only continues to grow and to flourish by continuing to do the foundational pieces, the inner work, the plant dietas, the looking at ourselves, checking ourselves when, it's not uncommon. And I'm sure you guys as coaches experience this. So you're on a call with somebody and it's like, oh yeah, recommending doing, exercise XYZ. It's like, I think I probably should do that myself, and so not just taking those pieces as insights of like, yeah, I think I should, like I'm not actually doing it, So continuing that inner work of doing what we know we need to be doing and doing what we know works so that the rest can grow above.
Absolutely. Oh my God. It happens so much for me in client work where I'm like, oh yeah, I learn so much if I'm diving into something that I maybe don't know about because a client has mentioned it. I learn and I am made better, more whole, more just I'm able to serve in such a richer way because I've taken on that learning, but also for sure the mirror. Sometimes you feel like you're looking in the mirror and be like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. Thanks, universe, for that reminder for me also, for sure. I love that. Well, on that note, is there anything that we didn't cover? I mean, I know we could go on and on and on always with so many stories. I mean, if there's something that we didn't touch on that you really want to touch on before we close, let's go there. And then we want to hear how people can get in touch with you, all the websites, all the things. Let us know that as well.
I think the only thing that's left there for me is to acknowledge you two. I think what you guys are doing is beautiful, and I really appreciate the energy and the time you put into this. And you keep showing up, you keep producing, you keep getting in front of that camera. You go through all the challenges we've had with the recording audio and signal going off, and like you guys are just so great about it and great about what you're doing, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate Jay with your videos you share on social media, and sometimes those messages for me, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you too, Mom. Thank you so much for what you guys do.
Thank you.
I think the only thing that
it's wonderful to receive
would
that.
add is I really just would encourage all the listeners to really honor what your heart and your gut, these lower intelligence centers are giving you. And it's very common in life that we get a ping, we get a hit, we get an intuition like, maybe that's for me, or that's definitely not for me. It's, and a lot of the audience is skydivers. So I think a lot of people know, yes, I've always wanted to try skydiving, or no, I've never wanted to try skydiving. There's very little gray area. And I think when we're really listening to our intuition and to our heart and our belly, we know, even if it's subtly, sometimes against what the mind is telling us, what direction we should go. And so when working with plant medicines or with psychedelics, even with the microdose tincture or the full-blown ayahuasca ceremony, it is for some people and it isn't for everyone. And so really honoring, what that is for you. And that being said, I will say that this medicine, ayahuasca, has absolutely changed my life. I wouldn't still be married to this person next to me.
You wouldn't have been married at all to this person.
No, it's true. We wouldn't still be together. And, it's 13 years later, I'm still profoundly happy. Of course, we have our challenges, but I am so happy to be with this young man next to me. And ayahuasca has helped me heal asthma. it's helped me to uncover trauma that I didn't know existed. There's been so many powerful, profound transformations that I am so blessed to experience. And I just feel like if people are feeling the lean, to trust that and to lean in and to really honor that if that's what you're feeling. And if you're like, nope, I know from my heart that that's not for me, then honor that too and never let anyone talk you into it. No one should go skydiving because somebody else said they should.
You know, I have to jump in because one of the things that I really love to do at the end of these conversations, these interviews, is acknowledge who is in the room. And so, Travis, I really receive what you shared. Thank you for that. I have like a tear in my eye. And that's something that you guys do. I could absolutely cry thinking about this because it's been so profound. What you guys have given me is that space to be truly, truly seen, held, and lifted. And so the power of that, my friends, and I'm talking to everybody listening, this is a big, big deal, right? The bravery to step in those spaces. And you guys do that so unbelievably effortlessly, even though I know it is not effortless. It is so intentional. It is so natural. It makes such a massive difference. And I can only speak from my unique experience, my singular experience, but it's changed me and my life. And I'm going to cry again. I love you guys so much. I love every time you come on the show. Come on the show all the time.
I also want the opportunity. I want the opportunity to share here too, because both Shannon and Travis have been integral pieces of my spiritual journey, and I love to say this word, spiritual journey. My spiritual journey. I want people to hear that again. My spiritual journey, touching my spirit, getting back in with my soul, and that journey for me has gone. It has fluxed in and out at points. I've been very lucky to be somebody who has been naturally inclined to follow my intuition, follows that gut instinct deeply and knows that that's just the way to go, even when it seems terrifying and doesn't make any sense at all. And I just go with it. And sometimes it's really, really hard to do that. And I've been leaning into it again recently. And I want to touch on how the two of you have been anchors in my life over the last 7 years. No ironies there. 7-year cycles are swirling around. I've just came out of ceremony this weekend. It's been 2 days since my last one wrapped up. And the journeys with the plant medicines of ayahuasca and psilocybin and San Pedro have all completely changed who I am as a person. They have empowered me to make the changes within myself. And part of that has been facilitated by yourselves. And I'm so grateful. And I'm very aware that I can take up space unapologetically like a fucking killer whale in the room, right? Like, excuse me, but I know how much space I can take up and how hard I can be to handle and deal with. And you guys are just fantastically amazing at holding that space for each and every person, no matter what their animal expression may be, whether they're the tiniest cricket in the corner or whether they're as obnoxious as the killer whale might be and as unapologetic as a killer whale might be. So I'm so grateful for both of your work on yourselves, because it's a pure reflection back into who we are, because we don't do this alone. We do this together, and we rise. High tide lifts all boats. And so thank you for being that tide.
And definitely tell everyone where they can reach you and where to get all the things. Please tell us that.
Well, before we do, I want to jump back to you, Jay, because I know I've acknowledged you personally, but I now get the chance to acknowledge you publicly, because part of Travis's story is that you are the reason we found ayahuasca. at a friend's wedding 12, 13 years ago. And that was the first time we'd ever heard of DMT, did the research to learn that we wanted to do ayahuasca versus smoked DMT. And without that interaction, that sliding door at that wedding conversation, I don't know if we would be sitting here right now. We might have found it a different way, but you know, the whole cycle is just beautiful, how it just continues to yin yang, and we give and take, give and take, give and take. So thank you for who you are, from psychonaut to psychonaut. Yeah. So
you're welcome. Thank you. And I think that there's something in there. There's a depth in there of this connectivity piece for those who have been on their own spiritual journey and have had the thing like myself, where I'm like, I always knew that one day I would do ayahuasca. I always knew one day that would happen, and I never know who would get me there or how I would get there. And, you know, eventually the right friend came along and took me by the hand and said, hey, this is for you. You need this now. And God, I was a fucking hot mess at the time, right? Like a hot mess. And I had a beautiful person come up and take me by the hand and be like, hey, you need this. Even though you're the one who's like spreading the medicine out there in so many ways, you need to be the one who is the garden for a change instead of being the gardener. And it's just wonderful how we do that for each other, how we just, you know, sometimes we need to let the plant lead and just go where the plant needs to take us to. And other times we need to take the plant to somebody, you know, and we all just take our turns. So infinite gratitude all around. Please tell us where everybody can find you. So if somebody who's listening is like, yeah, this is for me, how do they get a hold of you? What's your handles? What are the details? What are the websites? Tell us all.
Sure.
Ayadose.com is the website.
That's the microdose website.
But it'll take you to our whole website.
Yeah,
so you can navigate around a little bit. Or you can go to greatspiritfarm.org as well. Our Instagram handle is Great Spirit Farm.
My personal Instagram is at Luashea Luminosa. You could probably find that in the show notes.
Can you spell that for us?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
we got it.
Lua, Lua Shea, CHEIA Luminosa, LUMINOSA. So that's my personal Instagram. Our farm Instagram is Great Spirit Farm, and Travis's is T.Morehead. And you can also, I'm on Facebook, Travis Morehead on Facebook, but you can find us there, or you can send us an email, info@greatspiritfarm.org. Again, we don't advertise our retreats, but if you're personal friends of Mal and Jay, you can reach out to them and they will refer you, if it feels appropriate, and send you our private link to get on a private email list with dates and information. And again, if you want to try the Ayahuasca Microdose, just go to ayadose.com and it'll take you right to the product page.
Thank you so much.
Yes. On that note, we love you infinitely to the ends of time that doesn't exist. Blah, 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 all of that stuff.
Exactly. I love you to the end of time that never existed in the first place.
Love you.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, seriously, for listening, for spending your valuable, valuable time, energy, and heart with us. Every bit of it makes a difference.
Yeah, thank you. We would love it if you could show your support for the show by subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or follow us on Instagram. You can always click the like button, leave us a comment, or share an episode with somebody directly.
Like we mentioned, every month we host integration coaching circles. So much good work is happening there. You are invited to join us. Go to trustthejourney.today/integration. The Trust the Journey family includes these integration coaching circles and our private Facebook group where we connect and support each other. Join us by going to our website, trustthejourney.today, and click the orange Patreon button.
Yeah, thanks. It's your support and engagement that make the show possible. Thank you. We're here to connect with you. Feel free to DM us anytime on Instagram. We're at trustthejourney.today. Thank you. We love you.
We love you.
Keep laughing, keep loving, and keep trusting the journey.